Welcome to the Truckers Network radio show on tncradio.live, where we feature the news, traffic, weather, information, and entertainment our commercial drivers want. I'm your host, Shelley Johnson. Music is something that we like to feature on a regular basis, and we like to pull from all different kinds of genres and areas of the country. The Little Wretches have been a mainstay of the Pittsburgh music underground, playing venues like the Electric Banana for years. In many ways, they're one of Pittsburgh's best-kept secrets. To those who are not in the know, for patrons who hear them, they're hooked. The Little Wretches was co-founded by brothers Robert and Charles Wagner after the group No Shelter was disbanded. Former members of No Shelter joined the Little Wretches for a wonderful mix of music that honors the blue-collar vibe of Pittsburgh and its rich musical tradition. With the influence of folk punk, the band eventually transitioned into straight rock and roll, which is part of the bedrock of the American music scene. The Little Wretches began to play so often at Pittsburgh venues like the Electric Banana, they earned the distinction of a true house band and became a linchpin of that area's music scene. Today they play all over with music like this.
Turned into fanatics with terrible secrets hidden up in their attics. Closets full of skeletons and old bones they only bring out to play with when nobody's home. All of my friends are on some kind of list of undesirables and anarchists. It's not even safe to admit that you're one of our friends. All of my friends know cause and effect, they're notably known for abuse and neglect. We're natural targets, we're perfect to blame. None of my friends ever runs out of shame. All of my friends have taken some kind of rap, but your biggest weapon is your handicap. Nothing much good ever happens to none of our friends. Carving a niche between the dust and the ether, walking in circles, limping along. I'm stuck in a ditch, but I'm a believer. I don't know much except right from wrong. Oh, what comedy! Oh, what torture! Oh, what stories we will tell someday, someday. We're walking in beauty, we're walking in grace. We're marching like sheep to the slaughterhouse blade. We're the prize-winning herd at the Macy's parade. None of my friends ever made the first team. If you're going to hell, gotta go to extremes. Gently down the stream, no, none of our friends. In rarefied air, with the high priest of culture, we kneel down for a prayer for the lesbian couples and their turkey basters, and the amateur connoisseur, the cyanide tasters. All of my friends, wind scattered and blown, never get too close to the foot of the throne, but they're the best people I've ever known. Carving a niche between the dust and the ether, walking in circles, limping along, stuck in a ditch, but I'm a believer. I don't know much except right from wrong. Oh, what comedy! Oh, what torture! Oh, what stories we will tell. Some
We were just listening to All of My Friends. That song hit #1 on the folk rock charts in South Africa. Today, I have Robert Wagner of the Little Wretches with me. Robert, thank you for being on the show with me.
Oh, thank you for asking. I sometimes wonder, how did you stumble across the great unknown group, the Little Wretches? To your credit, you know about us. The whole world should.
Well, I've been interviewing a number of musicians from the Pittsburgh area. Pittsburgh is rich with music. It's really amazing.
Yeah, I went to a music conference years ago, and one of the workshops, I forget who convened the workshop, was saying that genius emerges from a community. Mm-hmm. So when you go back home, focus on building community, and each when you look at cities that have become meccas of a music scene, whether it's New York City or Seattle, or at one point Athens, Georgia, at one point Cleveland was a hotbed of musical activity, the Cleveland-Akron area. Mm-hmm. Pittsburgh, it took a while. We have a thing in Pittsburgh. I don't know if you've ever heard the expression crabs in a barrel, where everybody's trying to climb up, and while they're climbing up, they're pulling everybody else down. Yeah. But over time, we've come. People from around the country know that if you go to Pittsburgh, the cost of living is good, and you can do your art in a supportive community. Now, you might not get a lot of money and a lot of recognition for it, but you can do what you love and make a go of it. So Pittsburgh's a very vibrant place to be, and I'd like to say I've played a role in making it so.
Yes, you have. And Pittsburgh is really the fabric of America. It's an example of how music has evolved from different geographic areas, and you certainly have been a major contributor. You've got a really interesting background. I was reading before you got into being a musician, one of the things you really liked were superheroes, and you wanted to make a difference. I understand Popeye was one of your idols.
Yes. In fact, we had a show Saturday night, and I wore my Popeye hat, and of course everybody sees it and assumes that I must be a veteran from the Navy, and they want to thank me for my service. It's like, well, I wish I could make that claim, but no, this is just a Popeye hat. And then yesterday I had, I drew the anchor tattoo that Popeye has. I drew that on my forearm and rolled up my sleeves and had my Popeye hat. But there were kids like, Mr. Wagner, what are you? It's like, I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. I am what I am, but those youngsters, they don't know about Popeye.
I am what I am. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, this is interesting. I guess as a child, you ran around with an empty can of spinach under your shirt, a corncob pipe in your teeth, and a superhero's cape made from a bath towel. That's great.
And when I was pretending to be, I was not pretending, I was Popeye. Mm-hmm. So, my parents played along with it, but those corncob pipes apparently are expensive, and I think I used to chew the tips off of them. And so my aunts, who were, the pipe suppliers, they got tired of spending money on pipes if I was only going to chew the tips off of them. Mm-hmm. And then one fateful day, my mother had just had enough, and she said, Popeye's made out of paper. Do you want to be made out of paper? It's like, well, no, I don't want to be made out of paper. Popeye's a cartoon. Oh, I used to ask for things like, what do you want for Christmas? I want a shark so I can fight it. Mm-hmm. The good boy stuff.
Oh, that's half the fun of being a child and a boy.
Yeah.
You get to work with all these different dynamics out. Would you say that was some of the passion that you took into adulthood? Because it looks like you've really worked for the underdog and the disenfranchised.
Yeah, well, that's the name of our band. We're the Little Wretches. And there was a time when people just didn't get the connection. The Little Wretches, Amazing Grace, that saved a wretch like me. You would think people would get that, or the big Broadway hit Les Miserables, Les Mis. What's that mean? That means the Little Wretches. Mm-hmm. But people didn't make that connection, and now it seems. I don't know. I used to always get how negative I was, how angry I was. And now I'm the exact same person, but I've gone from being the angry young man to the respectable adult who speaks the truth and stands up for the underdog. Now I keep hearing how positive I am, and I haven't changed at all. But I've weathered the storm. It's like he must be serious about what he's doing, because he hasn't given up.
That's right. That's right. And music's competitive, so that if you're still sticking to it, you definitely have the determination. And I love the fact that you're very much in favor of the working men and women, which of course is who our audience is with the professional drivers across the U.S.
Yeah. Well, Pittsburgh, well, I don't know. I assume that everybody knows the history of Pittsburgh, but my dad people believed he had a Mississippi accent, because so many people in his neighborhood when he grew up were from Mississippi. They migrated north to work in the steel mills. There's a guy named Brian O'Neill that wrote a book called Pittsburgh, the Paris of Appalachia. We're not really a Midwestern city. I know people lump us in now. They think Pittsburgh's a Rust Belt city. But people came from all around the world to work in Pittsburgh. And at one point, the neighborhood in Pittsburgh known as the Hill District was, the center of black culture, the Negro baseball leagues, the Homestead Grays, the Pittsburgh Crawfords, one of the most prestigious African-American newspapers, the Pittsburgh Courier. So Pittsburgh's the hotbed, the country of Czechoslovakia, which no longer exists. It's now the Czech Republic and the Slovak Republic. But Czechoslovakia was created through diplomats getting together in the city of Pittsburgh and deciding to form the country Czechoslovakia. So we're much more than a melting pot. We were the Lewis and Clark expedition that explored the west of the United States after the Louisiana Purchase. They departed from Pittsburgh, the Three Rivers. They headed down the Ohio River from Pittsburgh. A lot of people don't know that. The Corps of Discovery set sail from Pittsburgh.
I did not know that.
The modern world, steel, you like steel? Thank us. You like lumber? Pennsylvania was completely deforested 100 years ago because our lumber and our steel built America. I'm sorry to digress, but
no, this is very interesting, and this is a good education for everybody, certainly. And that is what builds the fabric of a community and its uniqueness, which is where America is so wonderful from city to city to city.
Can I chime in something about the truck driver thing?
Oh, sure.
As a musician, we have the band, but I do an awful lot of traveling and performing solo because our band are working people. They have houses, they have mortgages, they have kids to put through college, and they can't afford to hop in their car, drive 10 hours, play a gig, wake up the next day and drive another 10 hours. But I think that is the life of a lot of truck drivers.
Oh, yeah.
Just last weekend, I was nominated for an award down at the Grand Ole Opry, an Independent Music Award. I didn't win. I won last year, but this year I didn't win. So, I did a 10-hour drive to Nashville, waited until the award ceremony was over, hopped in the car, and drove 10 hours back to Pittsburgh. And there's something about being on the road that lets you let go of your problems. You just look out the window and realize that the problems that I have back home, they don't mean a hill of beans to these people out the window here. And it just reminds you how vast the world is, and it keeps you humble, gives you a lot of time to think, and just enjoy this great, vast America that we have.
It truly, truly is. So you won an award, you said, last year. What did you win the award for?
Last year, we were named the Multi-Genre Group of the Year award at the Josie Music Awards. It's an independent music awards. They're great because their awards are juried. It's not just a popularity contest. They actually listen to what you do, and their judges make a decision. So I didn't think we were going to win 2 years in a row. We were nominated again this year, but we didn't have the fortune of winning. And the group that did win, I think they were called 8 Days Sober. They had a formidable product and they're a great band, so they very much deserved to win. But there's a DJ on a radio station here in Pittsburgh, sort of a freeform DJ, and I heard him say one time, I can't be prepackaged because I fit in no box. And I've kind of adopted that. Same thing with us. If we had been like Kentucky Fried Chicken and said we do chicken right, we might be world famous by now. But we've always you play it like you feel it, and we kind of program our sets like the old time radio shows where you could hear the Beach Boys next to the Doors, next to the Rolling Stones, next to an R&B group. We try to program our sets where we're changing styles, we're changing tempos, we're changing grooves, and we just our fans get it. But when it comes from a music business standpoint, when they have to decide what shelf do you go on, do you go in the frozen foods or do you go in the dairy section? Well, we go in the Little Wretches section. Put us in the section that's set aside for good music, and that's where we belong. But that's not how the business operates.
No, it's very formulaic, even more so today. And I think people are really yearning for bands like yours.
Well, the technology makes it possible. Now we're a click away. Any kid in the world can find us if he gets lucky. Yeah. And I think we've spent our entire career preparing for the opportunities we now have.
Yes, it is a worldwide exposure you can achieve on the internet. It's just a matter of getting above the cacophony, if you will, because there's a lot of noise out there.
Yeah. Well, that's, people use the analogy, you're a needle in the haystack. It's going to be harder for people to find you. Mm-hmm. But then again, we have, a lifetime of work. So if you find us, then there's a good chance if you hear one song, then you're going to want to hear an album. When you hear an album, you might want to hear 5 of them. Mm-hmm. So we're something that you can really get into. We have a story, and we have an identity, and we have a worldview. So there's a lot for new listeners to get into, and that's my favorite thing as a performer. Give me an audience that never heard me before, mm-hmm. and I can just pull out all my best bits, so to say. Not that I want to do shtick, but I just have some songs that I know if you haven't heard them before, these are going to knock you out. And then you're going to walk away slack-jawed wondering, why haven't I heard of these guys before? They're great.
And I'm sure our listeners for this show are definitely going to agree because we're featuring your music. We have to go to break here to pay the bills. This is the Truckers Network Radio Show on TNCRadio.live. I'm Shelley Johnson, and I'm speaking with Robert Wagner of the Little Wretches. Stay tuned for more coming up. The trucking industry keeps America running thanks to the 3.36 million professional truck drivers who deliver everyday goods to 80% of American communities who rely on trucking for that last mile. The industry represents a diverse group with nearly half of drivers at 42% as minorities. Trucking Moves America Forward, or TMAF, educates the public on the essentiality of trucking by telling the story of trucking and its positive impact on our economy, communities, and lives. Learn how you can join the industry movement by visiting truckingmovesamerica.com.
Bottles all empty and broken. Asthmatic parasites squealing and choking. The pay stuff discarded when your wallet gets stolen. Your lipstick is thin and your eyelids are swollen. You're up in the morning and you're down in the spirit. You're 5 minutes late and they don't want to hear it. Get down to half hour, you shop my how pointless. These people are mindless and spineless and jointless. Ooh, in America they call it fear. Ooh, cigarettes, styrofoam coffee cups, cigarette smoke and a mirror for making up. You look pretty normal, but you feel out of place, 'cause you don't care about the things they chase. Your family and friends give each other support. You're spending their lives selling themselves short. The years fly past when you're caught in the flow. A person can't want what a person don't know. Ooh, in America they call it fear. Ooh, they call it fear. Well, who's a big shark in a small pond? Who's the uncrowned king of the dump? Well, every now and then they like to toss a few crumbs and watch all the suckers jump. You take care of your own kind first. Those who have shall have more. There's one man mightier than the sword that signs a declaration of war. Well, any boy can be president, but only one per generation. When one man strikes it rich, 99 others find deprivation. For every beast of burden who is cut loose from the yoke, 99 others work twice as hard, believing they've got a hope. Don't be afraid when you're out late waiting for morning. You're by the riverside, watching raindrops on the wharf. There's thunder and the lightning, it's gonna start pouring. We didn't pay a dime. You got the best view in the world. Ooh, in America they call it fear. In America they call it fear. Ooh, in America they call it fear. Ooh, in America they call it fear. Ooh, they call it fear.
That was Who is America by the Little Wretches out of Pittsburgh. You're listening to the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.live. I'm your host, Shelley Johnson. I'm talking with one of the co-founders of the Little Wretches, Robert Wagner. What is the story behind the Little Wretches? I know that you have quite the background. You and your brother, you made guitars out of scrap wood.
Yeah, well,
You were so determined, and this is quite the evolution of how everything came to be.
well, part of it is our, Eastern European immigrant upbringing. We came to America to make something of ourselves and to achieve something. Like my grandmother, if she ever heard us say something as ridiculous, I just want to be happy. Like cows in a field are happy. Do you want to be a cow? We didn't sacrifice everything we had to come over here for you to be happy. We want you to do something with your life. You were made with a purpose. Find that purpose and go for it. So when we were kids, what's more fun than music? So we just loved music. And we would, my father was doing the great suburban thing of remodeling the basement and putting in the paneling. So we would take the scrap wood and we would try to make guitars and every instrument we could. And then our parents would say, well, you need a record contract. It's like, well, how do you get a record contract? Well, you write to the record company. So we would get our parents, 7-inch 45s or the 33 and a third LPs. We would find the address on the label. We would actually write letters to the record company telling them, we want a record. Nobody replied to us. But from the get-go, we understood that we were serious about it. And we were raised with the belief that you're supposed to, you're born with a gift and you should honor that gift and go for it with all your might. And if you do, the blessings will come with it. But if you sell yourself short, then you'll never know what you could have accomplished.
So how did the Little Wretches evolve? That was not your first band, am I correct?
No, the first band I had, honestly, in order to be in a band, you have to get along with people. And I was a pretty angry teenager because, I went from like the Leave It to Beaver family to, my family totally disintegrated. I was somewhat of an abandoned child. And, but I was a pretty bright, so I managed to keep my grades up in school. But pretty much, if you had met me when I was 15 or 16 years old, I hated everybody and everything. But I was already a good writer, and I kind of resigned myself. I'm going to have to be a poet because I'm never going to get along with people. In order to have a band, you have to have musician friends, and I'm never going to have a friend. I'm never going to have a car. I'm never going to have a house. It's me against the world. And then when I went to college, and I was getting some recognition as a writer at a young age, the punk rock scene happened. And what's punk rock all about? Being angry. And it turned out my college roommate was the best musician I've ever known, and we started a band. It was called No Shelter, and it's kind of a takeoff on that Bob Dylan song, Shelter from the Storm. It's like, no, you can't, there is no shelter from the storm. The only way to survive the storm is to go right through it and come out the other side. So that was our first thing. It was almost like an apprenticeship. After 3 years in No Shelter, I realized that what I really am as a writer, I tell stories through songs, and I have to find a way to frame. Every picture needs a frame. Every story needs a context. So I need to find a way to give a context and a frame to my stories so that they communicate with people. And I've gotten pretty good at it. So the Little Wretches was sort of when I had that sense of purpose. This is what I'm good at. We always knew it was folk music, but the folk music community didn't recognize us as folk music right away. But the first show we did, we had some people just like doing hand claps and finger snaps, like old doo-wop music. My brother playing violin. We had really powerful lyrical content. And people really, really liked us, but we were such oddballs. Where are we going to play besides museums and art galleries? So then we kind of got more mainstream. But along with getting more mainstream, you also become less unique. We've gone through a lot of, we're a multi-genre group. We've gone through a lot of changes, but the identity is we're going to tell great stories, great lyrical content, simple melodies, nice singable melodies with simple chords, straight ahead beats. It's actually very popular. When you speak of popular music, it's very accessible, and we're able to deliver some powerful content because we're good at delivering it.
When you think about it, that sort of style is what sticks in people's heads for decades.
Yeah. Well, we have some very die-hard fans. I have, over the years, there are people who've done more for me than I've done for myself. There were times when, I was dead set, I'm not going to have a day job. I am going to find a way to make this economically viable. And I'd go out knowing if I don't sell 2 cassettes tonight, I don't eat tomorrow. If I don't sell 2 CDs tonight, I don't eat tomorrow. And I look back on it, I've had people give me cars. I've had people give me, 60 pounds of ground meat to get me through the summer. And people have taken care of me. I owe it to them to deliver on the promise. We better get famous soon. I'm starting to get old.
Age is a frame of mind.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt.
There's some people in their 20s who are older than dirt, just because of how they think, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, what's that Bob Dylan song? I was so much older than then. I'm younger than that now. I'd like to. Well, for me, I'm still fighting the same battles I was fighting when I was 17. I'm just better at it.
You've perfected your craft, and you've become a better diplomat, maybe.
Yeah, that's part of it, or just a better communicator, understanding that. Well, first, if you want to be a good communicator, you have to have something to communicate. You have to have something to say, and you really have to believe in it. And then from there, it could be some trial. There are prodigies who, at the age of 17 or 18, they just have a gift. Right place at the right time with their talent, and the world responds to it. But if you have something to say that you believe in, you're going to find the vessel. You're going to find the means to do it. And I think that's the case with the Little Wretches. Just looking back on it, you can see kind of a consistent thread through our work, even though the style changes a lot. And me, I can go out and play solo, and I just love that connection that you can make with an audience, that people that are just playing entertainment music, they're just playing background music, they don't get that buzz that I get.
Sure. You're able to switch hit as a musician, and that's wonderful. And you know how to evolve with the needs of the audience. Speaking of evolution, you folks have a new album out, and I wanted to feature a couple of the songs off your album. This particular song is called Loving Kindness. Very appropriate today. More people can learn it. It's an art in and of itself.
Loving kindness all my days. Loving kindness. Loving kindness all my days. Lord, I sing your praise. I live by the precepts of a poem that survives, spoken by the murdered king of history's hated tribe. I believe in the impossible, in things I cannot prove, that oceans can be parted and the hearts of haters move. Loving kindness, loving kindness all my days. Lord, I sing your praise. Well, I don't speak for anyone, I barely speak for me. I believe in the impossible, in things that cannot be. I'm smart enough and strong enough and wise enough to know I don't deserve the harvest of a field I didn't sow. Walk with me, don't say a word. How don't you feel amazed? How don't you want to thank someone? How can you not give praise? I wander through the darkness, graced with life I don't deserve. Show me who to thank and teach me how to serve. Loving kindness, loving kindness, loving kindness, loving kindness all my days. Loving kindness, loving kindness, loving kindness, loving kindness all my days. Lord, I sing your praise.
TNCRadio.live is proud to carry the Steve Summers Overnight Drive Show. TNCRadio.live is dedicated to commercial drivers. We offer the news, traffic, and weather you need, and the entertainment, sports, talk, music, and celebrity interviews you want to hear 24/7. We have original shows and trucker podcasts that feature some of your favorites, like Ice Road Alex Debogorski and America's Truckin' Sweetheart Marcia Campbell. TNCRadio.live is convenient and designed for professional drivers. The best part is we're free, and you can listen anywhere you are on the road. With just one tap, you can tune into Steve Summers and us right on your phone. Simply download our app by going to app.tncradio.live. That's app.tncradio.live. Welcome back to the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.live. I'm Shelley Johnson. I'm speaking with Robert Wagner of the Little Wretches of Pittsburgh. They got some great music. I wanted to talk about your band. Who all is in the band?
Oh, well, see, that's a complicated question. Right now, the main performing core of the group, we have a lot of deceased members. My brother, who started the band with me, he passed away. Our original bass player passed away. Our original harmony vocalist passed away. A high mortality rate in the Little Wretches. So right now, I'm the lead singer and guitar player. I have a woman named Emma Ruth. Emma Ruth Golby is my harmony vocalist. She's also a great lead singer. On bass, I have John Carson. On drums, I have Mike Madden. And when circumstance arises, when circumstance lines up, we have a great lead guitar player named Peter King. And then sort of some of the seminal members of the band, Ellen Hildebrand and Dave Losey. They were very important members of the band until the demands of their family lives, raising their children, pulled them out of the band, but they still perform with us when the opportunity arises. They're like investors in the company, they're stakeholders, so they don't regularly perform with us, but it's just understood that if Ellen can make the gig, she's on board. If Dave can make the gig, he's on board. And hopefully the day will come when the terrible trio is again working together and conquering the world, because we just have an intuitive, understood vibe. I've never been around people who worked as hard and with as much devotion and focus as Dave Losey and Ellen Hildebrand. And I would, there was a time when we just woke up in the morning knowing, what are we doing today? We're playing for the Little Wretches. We're either doing a show or we're doing a rehearsal, and nothing comes before that. Of course, their families did. They had to raise children, and there's no job you'll do that's more important than raising your family. So.
Sure. But when you work that hard at music, the audience knows it. They know you have your passion in it. You're not just on the stage performing as a pretty face who can play guitar or sing. They know you really mean it. And that's what they're grasping for, too, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's, I try not to think even too much about the audience. I just kind of know that if we have conviction and commitment and we're having fun, that it will connect with people. But I try not to think too much, marketing, I don't think there's any blueprint for success, and I'm certainly, I wouldn't advise anybody to do the things the way the Little Wretches have done them, but I don't want to calculate in advance. Did you ever see the movie with Robert Duvall called Tender Mercies?
I have not.
It's a classic. I think it won the Oscar as best movie the year it came out, and if it didn't win best film, he may have won best Oscar. But in this movie, Robert Duvall plays a character named Max Sledge, and he is a former country music star who fell on hard times, hit the bottle, and is eventually just abandoned on the road by his band. And so he's living in a small town, and bit by bit the townspeople come to realize, oh, that guy used to be Max Sledge. And there's a scene where he's at a gas station and a truckload of musicians pull up and they ask him, do you have any advice? And Robert Duvall says, well, play it like you feel it. And that's all you can do. If you're not playing it like you feel it, why are you even bothering? You know, this is your one life. Why? Now I've been around craftspeople. Like I was just down in Nashville in a songwriting workshop where, you know, there are people who are professional songwriters. Give them a theme. They'll come up with a rhyme scheme, a rhythm scheme. They'll brainstorm a bunch of images, and they can completely dispassionately put together a well-crafted song. And I'm impressed by that. Is like a plumber who can, you know, put in a piping system, an electrician who can wire your house. They're craftsmen, but they're not really creators.
Right.
And
it's kind of like paint by number. It looks good when you're done.
yeah.
But how much control did you really have, and how much of your soul did you put into it?
Yeah, well, it's like being a forger. I mean, in some ways, like, okay, so you've painted a beautiful picture, but that's not going to be hanging in a museum in 100 years. And people, I mean, this might be preposterous, but when people ask me, you know, what's your target audience? It's like, man, my target audience is eternity. The truth is, nobody's going to remember any of us. You know, we're just blips. 100 years. But if I can have a song that somebody can stumble over in 100 or 200 years and hear it and say, oh, wow, that's that community. That's one of the things that I'm proud of with the work of the Little Wretches, is songs that I wrote 30 years ago and recorded 30 years ago hold up today. If they were completely new, if I told you I wrote this song yesterday, you would believe it, because it has that same life that it had when it was born. So, you know, I'm not in it for the short game. I'm in it for the long term.
And that speaks volumes. And I like I said, I think that's what people are intrinsically looking for now, especially since the pandemic. I think that there's been a huge search for that kind of music that just stays with you, that has a message and it has a passion that people can resonate with. Speaking of songs that resonate, let's take time to listen to another one of the songs off your new album. It's called Palms and Crosses.
1 week palms, joy and praise, hearts are lifted, voices raised. The next week nails and crowns of thorns. The mother of God herself will mourn. A handful of stragglers waits at the scene, asking themselves what it is that they've seen. Best go home, assess our losses. 1 week palms, next week crosses. 1 week palms, next week crosses. Most of life goes on unseen. All I can say is tomorrow will decide what yesterday means. A single mom with 3 small kids, a picnic lunch under the bridge. Catch a line, catch a few fish, eat spaghetti off a styrofoam dish. Throw your ball, ride your bike, there you go, just play nice. Look, Ma, look, you got a bite. He stole your base, story of my life. 1 week palms, next week crosses. Most of life goes on unseen. All I can say is tomorrow will decide what yesterday means. A mother with her children on the 4th of July, waving sparklers on a cordoned off street. I told you keep your shoes on, don't blame me when you wind up with glass in your feet. Birthday parties, wedding gifts, got her under the store. Can you give me a lift? Ooh, this looks cool. What's it do? It catches dreams all that isn't true. Well, how do you know? You gotta believe. Alright, ask ye shall receive. Bring me back the friends I lost. Yeah, that's right, just like I thought. 1 week pause, next week crosses. Mostly life goes on unseen. All I can say is tomorrow will decide what yesterday means. All I can say is tomorrow will decide what yesterday means. All I can say is tomorrow will decide what yesterday means.
That's another great song from the Little Wretches. Robert, we were talking earlier about creativity and inspiration. You know, the pandemic put a monkey wrench into a whole lot of musicians' worlds. How did it impact the Little Wretches? How did you weather the storm?
I'm like the anomaly. For most people, the pandemic was, a terribly traumatic event. But for me, the President of the United States sent me a stimulus check, and I went and had all of our work remastered and released, and it kind of leveled the playing field, right? Garth Brooks couldn't tour, Dolly Parton couldn't tour, Led Zeppelin couldn't tour, so the playing field is level, and if you can get your product out there. So it gave me a couple of years to tread water and position myself to where we are now. We're getting pretty solid response with radio promotion. Booking is hard, but venues are opening back up, and so it's very. There's an old saying from Abraham Lincoln: "I will get ready, and perhaps my chance will come." Well, we put our preparation time in, and now our chances are coming. So it's really paid off. And you can find us anywhere. We're all over the internet. Whatever browser you prefer, just do a search for the Little Wretches. We're on all the streaming sites. We're on all the downloading sites, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, all that stuff. And we used to have guys follow us around with camcorders back in the 90s when we were doing shows. So there are hundreds of hours of our live performances that, by the grace of God, we had some people who liked our band, and they preserved those moments, which I look back now, it's like, wow, you captured my life on a video camera.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful.
So people can find you on YouTube too.
Everywhere, yeah. Well, we have a couple of really good lyric videos. I mean, look, we're going up against people that have millions and millions of dollars behind them. So if I can get 20,000 views on YouTube, look, I'd like 2 million views, but for an unknown, at this point, a relatively unknown indie band, if I can get 20,000 views, that's pretty good.
Sure.
Yeah, but there's tons, and it's not just the Little Wretches site. Like, obviously we have our own site, but if you just do a search on the Little Wretches, you'll find some of that other video stuff. We did some great shows, and we continue to do great shows.
Where can people see you live?
Well, right now, we're doing every Saturday night in Pittsburgh at a place called the Starlight. There's this legendary blues club in Pittsburgh called Moondogs. So there's Moondogs, which is in the Blues Hall of Fame, and then 2 doors down, the owner also owns a place called the Starlight Lounge, and so the one club is the rock club, the other club is the acoustic club. So we do every Saturday, although we don't always play acoustic, we do every Saturday night at the Starlight, plus additional gigs in Western Pennsylvania. And then I have gigs starting in the springtime. We'll be pretty much heading out every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to a different direction, like up towards Milwaukee, out towards Chicago, down towards Lexington, down towards Richmond, Virginia. So anywhere that we're getting airplay right now, our master plan is we have a record that's being promoted now. It's called Red Beets and Horseradish. Whatever stations are playing this one, they're going to play our next one too, and then we're going to expand from there. So the goal is to wake up in the morning thinking about where we're playing tonight, and to be playing 5 or 6 nights a week. My dream life is to be the hardcore troubadour, the itinerant musician that's playing for those one-nighters that all the old rock and rollers sing about, the one-night stands. I mean, I love that life.
Right.
Wake up in the morning thinking about what audience I'm going to play for tonight.
Well, I thoroughly enjoyed featuring you here, Robert. What is your website so people can check that out?
Okay. The name of the band is The Little Wretches, but our website is littlewretches.com without the. So www.littlewretches.com. You can also look us up on Facebook. I don't really do Twitter, don't really do much Instagram, but the website, it looks good, and it has the entire band history on it, plus links to purchasing our catalog. We have a great story, and a lot of it is there. If you like to read some of our interviews and so on, I don't know. Can I boldly say that they stand up as literature? They're good.
Yes. Well, I found you very intriguing. That's why I asked you on the show, and I really appreciate you being on the show with me.
Well, I'm thrilled that you found us. I love anything that introduces us to people who don't already know us is hugely helpful. And it's a blessing. What can I say? Thank God.
Yes, and thank you, Robert, for being on the show.
Thank you, Shelley.
You've been listening to the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.live. I'm your host, Shelley Johnson. Be sure to check out the music of the Little Wretches. You'll find out why they're a true Pittsburgh sensation. Stay tuned for more great programming on TNCRadio.live. Thank you for listening to another great interview on TNCRadio.live and the Truckers Network radio show. All of the material you hear on TNCRadio.live, on our website, our broadcasts, or our podcasts are copyrighted. There can be no distribution without the express consent of TNCRadio.live and its partners. For inquiries, write us at info@tncradio.live. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast of the Truckers Network radio show.